Hi there, folks. Sorry I'm a couple of minutes late. That Shabbat crowd, oh man, I'm beat. I'm ready for a nap. Go ahead, I know. You think I can find a seat? All right, let me get a little organized. It's just 6:01. I need a prayer book. Oh, good one. Let's see. Oy, oy, oy. Yeah, why don't you start first?
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We're beginning with the melody we've been learning over the last few weeks of Yedid Nefesh. It's on your handout. And we begin with Ay, Ay, Ay. I'm going to assume you got that.
Don't assume.
Oh, Ay, Ay, Ay. Do you need to repeat after me? You're going to have to work on that. Yeah.
This handout, does anybody else need one? You want me to go and get some for you? We all have one as you walked in?
They got it.
Yofi. Good, 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 good.
Ay, 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 ay. You know what? It was okay. I think you can do better. Ay, 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 Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh Av HaRachaman Meshoch Avdach El Ritzonach O Yarutz Avdach Kemo Ayal Yishachave El Mul Hadarach Oh yeah, Eravlo Yedidutach Minofet Suf Vechol Ta'am Ay, 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 Yedid Nefesh Av HaRachaman Meshoch Avdach El Ritzonach O Yarutz Avdach Kemo Ayal Yishtacha El Mul Hadarach O Yeravlo Yedidutach Minofet Suf Vechol Ta'am Ay, 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 ay,
Yes, sir. So before we continue, Like we always do, I'm going to invite you to turn to a neighbor, someone you do not know, someone whose name you do not know, and share your name, introduce yourself, and wish a Shabbat Shalom. Lovely. Thanks, friends. Let's turn to page 120. We're going to light our lights, bring God's light, Shabbat's light into our lives, into the space. Friends, come over here and join us. We are on page 120. Page 120. Yeah, come on over. The three of you. Bring everyone. Page 120, right over here. You get to light these first.
I tend to light my hair on fire quite often. So.
Yeah, that's a bad idea. There you go. Good. So we'll light the candles, and then you can join the cantor and sing the blessing.
Awesome. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Thanks, friends. Shabbat Shalom. Good to see you. Let's turn the page. 123. 123. We ask you to rise as you are able. We continue with our Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, be'ahava uvratzon, hinchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila l'mikraei kodesh, Zeicher litziat Mitzrayim, Kivanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon, Inchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen.
L'chaim.
L'chaim. Friends, you can sit down. Let's turn forward again in the Siddur in our prayer book 138 and 139. We continue with the prayer from our mystics of Tzfat, Lecha Dodi. We continue with the first 5 stanzas. After the 5th one, we jump to the very last, and at that point, our custom is to rise, if we're able, face the open doors in the back of our sanctuary, and symbolically, we welcome the Sabbath bride into our midst.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, yadadai, 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 pnei Shabbat, dekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yadadai, 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 pnei Shabbat, dekabela. Shamor vezachor bedibur echad, ishmi anu el hamyochad, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ידדי ידדי ידדי, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ידדי ידדי ידדי, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה ומחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ידדי ידדי ידדי, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ידדי ידדי ידדי, פני שבת נקבלה. מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, קומי צאי מתוך ההפכה. רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ידדי ידדי ידדי, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ידדי ידדי ידדי, פני שבת נקבלה. התנערי מעפר קומי, לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי. על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי, קורבה אל נפשי גאלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ידדי ידדי ידדי, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ידדי ידדי ידדי, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי. אורי אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ידדי ידדי ידדי, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ידדי ידדי ידדי, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ידדי ידדי ידדי, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ידדי ידדי ידדי, פני שבת נקבלה.
We can be seated and turn again 142.
שלום עליכם, מלאכי השרת, מלאכי העליון. מי מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. בואכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי העליון. מי מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ברכוני לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי העליון. מי מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. עשיתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Let's rise as we are able. 146.
Ya la la, ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la la. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Vaed Leolam 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 Olam Leolam Vaed Yalalai Yai Lai Lai Yai lai lai yai lai lai lai, ya la lai yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai yai ya lai lai.
Let's turn 151, the bottom of the page. I invite you to read along together. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these things your Torah gives to us, and the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema.
Let's be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
Let's read together again on 157. 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there's a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Let's turn the page.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדרנו את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Amen. Let's turn the page.
השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים, לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים, לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ותקננו בעצה טובה מלפניך, והושיענו למען שמך. Amen. השכיבנו אדוני. אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים, לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ותגננו בעצה טובה מלפניך, והושיענו למען שמך.
Let's turn again. 164. We move into the tefillah together, and we ask you to rise as you are able.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני Ha'el HaKadosh.
You may be seated. Let's join together again on 173, the top of the page. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. 178, our prayer for peace.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Let's take some time for our own personal prayer. You can look in the Siddur on 179 through 181, choose a reading to reflect upon if you'd like, or a little quiet, a little calm for our own personal prayer meditations.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru amen. Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru amen.
We turn forward again, 371. After this prayer for peace, we ask God, the maker of peace, Oseh Shalom, the one who makes peace up in the heavens, to bring peace to this world. But we have to play our part, not just to be peacemakers, but also to try and find a way to be healers. Can't always cure, but we can bring healing. And so if you open up this little handout again and looked at that middle column, you'll see these are folks who have shared their names with us, who would like to be included in these prayers for healing of body, a healing of soul. If you would like to call out a name, share one out loud, or even if you just kind of keep it close to yourselves, let's take a moment, let's lift up the names that might not be in this little handout, and we'll join you in the prayer for healing and wholeness.
Tally right, Claire.
For all of those who have been shared, those we're keeping to ourselves, we know the many in Israel who are hurting, thinking of all of these captives, even still. We continue with Misha Berach on 371, the middle of the page.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Laimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Well, across the country, there are congregations that are participating with HIAS' call for a refugee Shabbat. HIAS once upon a time was called the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. And in the early part of the 20th century, they were a major force in helping all of these Jewish refugees and asylum seekers kind of come to this country, get settled. And while the Jewish community might not need it the same way as it once did, the Jewish community is still a force behind HIAS, now they just call it HIAS, to help other people who are on refugee and asylum-seeking journeys find safety in this country. So there's maybe 500 congregations across the country that are observing, participating in this Refugee Shabbat, and we've had this wonderful speaker, Andrea Loya, who is the executive director of Casa de Paz, but she has a family emergency and isn't going to be with us tonight. So, what do you want to talk about? No, I'm kidding. So, while I might not be the expert in refugees and asylum seekers, a lot of us have our own family stories, maybe not in the distant future, distant past, but a couple of generations ago perhaps. But what I can share with you is to lift up this idea, this theme, looking at the Torah portion. Gotcha. Torah portion. Yitro, Jethro. Who's Jethro? Do you know who Yitro is? Moses' father-in-law. So Moses is the one who's growing up with Pharaoh's daughter and is the prince of Egypt. Remember the movie? And he is growing up in this world of privilege, and somehow he learns that he is of Hebrew descent. And he wants to connect, even protect his oppressed peoples. All of these other Hebrews that are still enslaved. Well, eventually God hires Moses and they leave Egypt. But Moses, when he was fleeing for himself and was on his own personal journey before getting hired, he marries a Midianite woman. She's not a Hebrew. They're not yet. They're kind of just about to become Israelites. And only after that does God call on Moses. Now, once God calls on Moses and they get through the sea, that was last week's Torah portion, there's this new moment right before the Sinai moment, right before God gives those tablets and these laws and these messages. God is prepared to give a constitution, and immediately before that, Moses is having a leadership crisis, the way lots of us do. And he looks to his father-in-law, Yitro. And Yitro, Jethro, gives him support, kindness, wisdom, counsel. And there's a lot of people who are saying, wow, this is a really interesting thing. Moses, who's just done God's work to bring the people out of Egypt, they're finally free, they're about to have this magnificent moment, and he's turning to his father-in-law, who's a Midianite priest, for counsel. So there's a pause in that for me. There's something in the text, in this little section of Exodus. Jethro helps Moses put together a judicial system, a whole process, even with appeals. And he is so grateful that he recognizes a deep love and counsel from his father-in-law. But the Torah says that Jethro told Moses to find capable people who revere the Eternal One, trustworthy people who will spurn ill-gotten gain. And as soon as Yitro shared these recommendations, the Torah says this, that Moses heeded his father-in-law and did all that he had said. Now, that hasn't happened all throughout the rest of history, but Moses listened to his father-in-law, and in this moment, there's something I think really significant. There's a teaching for us, and I think a lot of us in America's Jewish community have become pretty comfortable here. we might not feel it right now quite the same way as a few years ago, but overall, compared to other places in the world, our American Jewish community has felt pretty comfortable in this space. And it's easy, so easy, not to think about what other folks are going through. Yitro says, you have to do all of these things. Moses heeds his father-in-law's counsel. And I think the special piece of wisdom is that we can receive wisdom from lots of people, from outside of our own tribe. Sometimes in Torah study, we might bring as an example from another faith tradition. And people were like, whoa, it's Torah study. You should only be doing the Jewy things. But shouldn't we learn from each other? Does Jethro not have anything to offer? Isn't it possible that people who are looking for a new kind of future, a safe present, couldn't it be possible that what they want to come here is to offer their own gifts the way that Jethro gave to Moses? I know it's a different kind of a way to thinking of it, but we can learn from so many people, but it's kind of obvious to me there are some who feel that we have nothing to learn from anybody else unless they're just like me. Adam Grant is this psychologist and teacher at the University of Pennsylvania in the business school. He had a wonderful book a few years ago, maybe by now, called Think Again. And in this book, he talks about how we can change everything in our home, in the way we dress. Well, I don't so much, but the way we dress and the cars we drive and how the kitchen is going to be decorated or whatever it is, we change everything. But sometimes people get stuck in a sense of ideas that they held from their childhood. So for me to have the same ideas about other people from the 1970s, it's not kosher. It doesn't really work. We all have to grow. We've learned a lot since all of our childhoods, and almost all of us. And I think we have to be open to the possibility of learning from other people, that there is wisdom among the nations, and people who are coming to this country to try and contribute something meaningful. For me, in following the steps of HIAS and my grandparents, who came here with nothing, would have such a hard time imagining that I am living in such a way that was so foreign to them in the Bronx. So foreign. I think we have an opportunity to receive people's gifts, and I think we have an opportunity to help people find safety. Find safety. To open up our world, our country, and even sometimes our homes. To be able to let somebody else and find home. Isn't that what we want? I think that's what the Israelites were thinking about when they were leaving Egypt. I know that, my youngest daughter is studying abroad, and there's a piece of home that's missing a little bit, right? The poor kid is suffering through Greece. But we all, I think, want a sense of home. I'm finding now, in the midst of all of these struggles within our society, there's a lot of Jewish folk that are coming into synagogue, and it's like a confession moment when they meet me. And they're saying, with everything happening, I feel very tense. I wanted to enter a synagogue. I haven't been in a synagogue for 40 years. And it's happening a bunch. You're not surprised by it. Maybe it's even some of us. And after all of these years, I felt just a need to come home. It's not necessarily to talk to God, but it is to come home, and that has value too. So what can we do as a community? And even though the executive director couldn't be here with you, Casa de Paz is a wonderful place that's supporting some of the most vulnerable people in Colorado. How can we play a part? Because I have no doubt people played a part to help my grandparents. They couldn't have done it themselves. And as hard as it was, there was always somebody that was prepared to give them a hand. The challenge for me is, I think we get so comfortable, we forget that it's actually our hands that have to be extended. We kind of want somebody else's hands to do it. It's easier that way. It may be a little less scary, but I actually think it's our hands that have to be extended and figure out how do we not just welcome someone, but to help them find a home when they've lost everything. Everything. I'll say one last piece in this unprepared sermon. I'm doing a lot of reading about what matters to Jewish folks. And after a few years of this research, the first thing is, I have no idea. The second, after that, what I think might be true, we have this real connection to ancestors. It's not just because of the things that we do with memory in services like, say, Kaddish or have Yizkor, or special times when we give ourselves permission where we can have a little grief, or we can remember loved ones that we've lost. Like, that's a part of our tradition, but there's this idea of adding another link to the chain, and we have a hard time with the idea that we might be the last link. For me, something that I'm starting to realize is we have to tell our own family stories, even the hurtful ones, to a following generation. We have to know that it wasn't always like this. They didn't always live in suburbs. They didn't always drive cars and have all of these different kinds of comforts of life. Even some of us who might struggle on the day-to-day are still probably living better than how most of our grandparents or great-grandparents did. Let's go back and look at the chain as far as we can tell and kind of tell the stories, even to remind ourselves of how we should be functioning, how we can offer that arm and extend a hand. And I think while some of us might believe in this messianic idea, a Messiah that's going to come and bring peace and harmony to the world, I'm not so sure I buy into that either, but I do believe with all my heart that each and every person here can be the Messiah to someone. I think you can change somebody's life, and you might not ever know it. They might not ever tell you. They might not even realize it. But you can save somebody just by being present, perhaps. And these vulnerable people that are coming in to live here is no different than the folks, the ger, we often say the stranger, I prefer the sojourner, the ger that was living amongst the Israelites. So, on a refugee Shabbat, we get to take pause and think about Jethro. What did he do differently? Moses, what did he do differently? How that could be a model of receiving other people's wisdom and gifts in order to build something extraordinary going forward as we journey toward a promised land. And what about our own chain of tradition? I'm not talking about Torah necessarily. What's our family story? Even if we are new in this Jewish family, it's your chain too. You take it with you. So I hope that's something that will give us pause as we think about what to do about refugees, asylum seekers, displaced people, folks with temporary protected status, different kinds of migrants. And what is our task? And maybe even what's God waiting for from us? So, can you add some? And someday we'll have Andrea come and give us a real talk. Okay. Let's turn to the Siddur 586 at the bottom of the page. We'll ask you to rise as you are able. 586. We move toward the conclusion with Aleinu L'Shabach.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גאולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 588.
שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגובי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכינו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
May be seated. Zichronam levracha. May their memories be for a blessing. If you are observing a yahrzeit is the anniversary of one's death, or if you are in a period of mourning, we invite you, if you choose, to rise for a moment, share the name of the one whom you are remembering, and then we'll continue with additional names from the community. Shira. We also remember from our community those yahrzeits that have fallen on this week that's passed: Molly Bimstein, Shirley Blum, Anna Boonen, Mildred Clare, Richard Close, Aaron Ijuson, Tilly Ijuson, Irving Fisher, Alvin Goldstein, Marvin Greenberg, Stephen Halperin, Natalie Kaiser, Irving Levinsky, Eva Levine, Belle Rosenstiel, Hai Seufer, Helen Spiro, Ida Jacobson Wilner, and Celia Dora Miller. Kaddish is on page 598, and we stand together as we are able, shoulder to shoulder, supporting our friends who are saying Kaddish on this Shabbat. 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabba v'alma divrach chirutei v'amlich machutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael v'agala v'zman karev v'meru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach leolam omei amaya יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קדושם ברכו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תוש ברכתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה וימרו אמן יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ויאמרו amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and all who hurt here and everywhere. Let's say together amen. We can be seated. A couple of quick things that we want to share with you. First of all, we're glad that you're here, and we'll be grateful if you bring the Sidurim, the prayer books, back to the carts. After this, we'll have a chance to make a little oneg and have a nash. If I don't get there in time, somebody please start the motzi. You don't have to wait for me, I'm telling you. So that's what's happening next. We have some really interesting things that we are participating in our community. Some are with us, some are with the wider Jewish community. And in the handout, when you open it up on that page, and also when you turn it over again, there's really some really very significant gatherings that are taking place. But I do want to say that there is a change for those that are interested or have been coming to the weekly march to raise awareness about the hostages. This week, usually it's Sundays at Pearl Street at 1 o'clock. We are not going to be meeting in Boulder. Everybody in Boulder is going to be encouraged to go to Denver because the walk there, the 1 kilometer walk raising awareness about all of the hostages, there's going to be 6 family members from 6 different hostages that are going to be walking with the group, and it's going to be in Denver at 3 p.m. There's been information that has gone out to the synagogue. You can find that information. If you're not so sure, you can send me a note. The only way, you'll see it on our Facebook page. We don't usually advertise the locations. We want to be a little bit discreet so there's not antagonist kind of forces during these things because it's a very emotional time for people. But I will be at 3 p.m. in Denver on Sunday, Boulder and Denver together, something like Washington Square? Washington Park. Oh, Washington Square. I know that one. Washington Park. And if you're interested in learning more about it, you can let us know, and I'll give you the link to join the WhatsApp. The WhatsApp might be a little advanced for some of you, but that's how we're communicating about locations and times for all of these things. And before our closing prayer, one last reflection. We are commanded not to worship idols, not to put anything before God, not the golden calf of easy answers, not the hewn pillars of our own self-righteousness. The idols that can pull us away from our truest selves are fears and fantasies, worst-case scenarios, and delusions of grandeur. These idols have the power to inhibit our ability to imagine different and better futures, to open our hearts to other people, to trust in our own strength and the strengths of our communities. This idolatry is the most tempting when we are sad and scared and angry, or when the world feels overwhelming and we want to give in to despair. It is at those moments that our practices of rest and reflection, gratitude and generosity, justice and joy can remind us of who we truly are and reground us in the work we are here to do. So on this Refugee Shabbat, we commit to setting aside our idols. On this Refugee Shabbat, we commit to creating a world of justice. On this Refugee Shabbat, we commit to creating a world of compassion and empathy. On this Refugee Shabbat, we commit to creating a world of welcome.
Beautiful. And as we commit, I don't know about any of you, but I feel like I could use extra strength to keep doing the work. And so every morning I've been listening to this psalm that I've shared with you the last few weeks, Va'ani Ashir Uzecha. And can I see it for a second? The chorus was Zi Elecha Azamera. To you, O my strength, I will sing. This just gives me strength, and it gives me strength to keep showing up to do the work every day. So I invite you to join me in singing these words. Vani ashir uzecha v'aranein lavoker chasdecha ki hayita misgavli umanos beyom tzali vani ashir uzecha v'aranein lavoker chasdecha ki hayita misgavli umanos beyom tzali uzi elecha azameira uzi elecha azameira uzi elecha azameira uzi elecha azameira va'ani ashir uzecha va'aranein lavoker chasdecha ki hayita misgavli umanos beyom tzali uzi elecha azameira 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 va'ani ashir uzecha v'aranein lavoker chasdecha ki hayita misgavli umanos beyom tzali.
Shabbat Shalom, friends. Wish your neighbors a Shabbat Shalom. Come and join us, and we'll make a motzi together.